An old lady known as Miss Lucille in Chicago sells candy at the back porch of her house. She's been doing this for years, so the town, especially the kids, knows her as the candy lady. But she has a secret. One night, two thieves trespass into Lucille's house, intending to steal her profit from her candies. They pocket pieces of jewelry, but Gary, Lucille's son, catches them and chokes them to death. When Lucille finds Gary feasting on the thieves' organs, she tells him to throw them away because they're not good. The big back Gary is disappointed he can't make his back bigger, so he licks the knife. A young boy named Trey, together with two of his friends, stops by Lucille's to buy some food. She gives them Velveeta cheese on top of spicy Doritos, then some mystery meat that has weird bones. When Lucille catches Trey pocketing a candy bar, she asks him to stay and help her out with transferring a box instead of reporting him to the police. After his friends leave with their food, Trey does what he is asked. To his horror, after he moves the box inside her house, Lucille turns into a white-eyed, long-nailed monster and attacks him. Y'all, the way I cackled. After basketball tryouts in school, young friends Preston and Aaron walk on their way home. Preston suggests that they take a shortcut and walk through the alley he always walks through, so they don't have to walk all the way around, but the scared Aaron refuses. Shortly after, Preston finally convinces Aaron, who reluctantly goes with him. When Aaron stops at a garage door to pee, a white-eyed man pops out of the garbage bin beside him and asks,
"You got some change, nephew?"
"What in the ketamine is going on?" With his slurred speech, the man tells Aaron that everything isn't as sweet as it seems. When Aaron asks what he means, the man points at Preston, who then denies knowing what he's talking about. Resuming their walk, a prostitute named Jazz stops them and offers herself, but they quickly decline. After they leave,
Damn, she thick as hell, bro.
Preston informs Aaron that Jazz is actually a man. Meanwhile, Lucille continues to feast on Trey's corpse, which she has hung over her basement staircase. Preston and Aaron encounter a group of men who intimidate them. One of the men asks the others to go easy on them because they're just kids. He then gives them money, telling them to inform him if they're ready to make real money. Preston and Aaron resume their walk, happy about the money, especially Aaron, who has been wanting to buy new shoes. Aaron tells Preston that he'll need to hide the money in his new shoes because his mom will ask where he got them from. Before they part ways, Aaron tells Preston that he's going to drop by Lucille's to buy some candy before going home, so Preston tells him to call when he gets there. Aaron arrives at Lucille's and purchases a couple of candies. Unfortunately, Gary is waiting for him in the alley beside Lucille's that leads to the main road. As soon as he turns to the alley, the fat back Gary snatches him. The next morning, Preston worries about the fact that he still hasn't heard anything from Aaron. Later in Ms. Tui's class, Preston's classmates are talking about how a killer clown is snatching kids in their town, saying that's why the number of missing kids is growing. Meanwhile, the 7th District's Detective Cranberry visits Big Back Principal Mackey to talk to her about the disappearance of Aaron since his parents reported him missing the night before. Cranberry had also visited the school the week before for the disappearance of another student, Shaniqua Caldwell. Cranberry then visits Aaron's class.
Hi class, I'm Detective Cranberry.
He announces Aaron's disappearance and urges them to share if they know something. Gary watches a kid playing alone in the playground while eating a can of worms. He moves to a bench inside the playground and gets ready to snatch the kid. However, a group of kids passing by catches his attention, so he follows them instead. I think he actually ate the worms. Preston decides to check Lucille's, since that's where Aaron said he'll be. In the alley, Preston finds a shoe similar to Aaron's and finds the money Aaron hid in there. He keeps the money but leaves the shoe before going to see Lucille. When the group of kids joins another group of kids, they all decide to play hide and seek. The seeker, thinking he saw his playmate Damari, makes his way to a narrow alley to find him. Unfortunately, he ends up looking for Damari in a house where Gary is waiting for a victim. Gary snatches him.
Get off of me! Get off of me!
And later brings him to the basement after munching on the right side of his face. Preston informs Lucille about Aaron's disappearance and asks her if he dropped by last night. She denies seeing Aaron, saying she is positive Aaron didn't buy candies last night because he always buys the same candies every time. When Preston hears a kid scream from inside the house and asks what that is, Lucille says it's probably just their cat stepping on the remote. She immediately dismisses him and tells him to tell Aaron's mom, Stephanie, that she'll pray for them. Preston goes back to where he found the shoe, but the shoe is no longer there. While walking on the main road, Preston notices a white van following him. He quickly runs away and runs into an alley, where he bumps into Cranberry. Preston informs Cranberry that he heard a scream at Lucille's house and shares his suspicion that Lucille kidnapped Aaron, backed by the shoe evidence. He adds that the clown was following him in his white van.
Boy, are you high off some type of drugs right now?
Being high would be infinitely better than watching this trash. Preston informs him of what he knows as the last person who saw Aaron, but Cranberry laughs at him and mocks him. Since Preston doesn't have any other proof that Lucille is behind Aaron's disappearance other than seeing Aaron's shoe in the alley, Cranberry dismisses him. He brushes it off as imagination caused by the stress, but Preston insists that he knows Aaron's voice, so he's sure that it was Aaron's scream. Cranberry even takes the cash Preston found in the shoe and says it's for evidence. After getting a call, Cranberry dismisses Preston and asks him not to harass Lucille and to stop talking about the clown because he doesn't exist. Preston goes home and informs his mom, Carla, about Aaron's disappearance and his hunch about Lucille kidnapping him, but Carla also doesn't believe him. Carla kinda fine. We need more of her. Preston spreads missing posters with his classmate Rachel, to whom he shares what he knows and suspects. He adds that Lucille seems weird and gives off demon auntie vibes. After Gary bumps into them, Rachel comments that Gary has spooky vibes and remembers that he was the one shoveling Lucille's snow and mowing her lawn. Because of this, Preston points out that Gary also has a white van and suspects that he might be the clown. He deduces that the clown and the candy lady are working together, saying that the night Aaron went missing, a white van passed them twice, as if following them. Preston then proposes that they meet at 10 p.m. to investigate.
Damn, like Scooby-Doo.
More like, damn, this movie is like doo-doo. Later, Cranberry interviews Jazz about Kimmy, who hasn't been in school for 2 weeks. However, Jazz says she doesn't remember the last time she saw her, and she dismisses him, uninterested in finding Kimmy.
I heard cranberries was also sweet and sour.
Well, ain't nothing sweet.
She definitely needs Cranberry's juice for her UTI. Cranberry then visits the mom of DeAndre Evans, who also hasn't been in school for 2 weeks. However, like Jazz, the mom also dismisses him, saying she doesn't want to hear anything about DeAndre. Meanwhile, the alopecious big back starts putting some makeup, and he's never looked better. Cranberry visits Stephanie for a follow-up. When she asks if Preston shared anything, he shares Preston's suspicion of Lucille. He makes Preston sound crazy, but she immediately believes Preston's suspicion. Stephanie recalls being with her best friend, Margaret Casey, the night Margaret went missing during the summer of 8th grade graduation. That night, they were walking home, and Margaret told her that she was going to go to the candy store before going home. That was the last time she saw Margaret, and since then, she had gotten creepy vibes from Lucille and her son. Cranberry is shocked to hear that Lucille has a son. Stephanie says that she used to live across the alley from Lucille's for over 20 years, and she used to see Gary creeping around late at night and early morning. Still not believing anything against Lucille, Cranberry dismisses her. Cranberry might be the dumbest detective, but I'll let it pass because he kinda fine. When he gets home, Cranberry maps out the last seen places of the missing children. Soon his mapping shows that they went missing around Lucille's area. No f***ing shit. At around 10 p.m., Preston and Rachel make their way to Lucille's, armed with only a flashlight because they're stupid. En route, they encounter the white-eyed man, who runs away after warning them not to go. Preston and Rachel trespass into Lucille's, knowing that Lucille never locks her front door. Once inside, they are immediately greeted by an extremely pungent smell, but they continue whispering Aaron's name, hoping he'll hear them. To their horror, after they see white-eyed Lucille enter a door, Gary snatches them. Meanwhile, Carla is getting fired from her job.
Stutter fire!
As Carla walks away, the fat man starts dancing.
Green light!
When Carla gets home, she simply assumes Preston is asleep when he doesn't answer her, and she's too stressed out about her unemployment. The next morning, Rachel's grandma realizes that Rachel's not home. She calls Carla to ask if Rachel is in her house, and only then does Carla realize that Preston is not home. Carla calls Cranberry to report Preston and Rachel missing. Since Carla mentions Preston's suspicion of Lucille, Cranberry finally decides to visit Lucille. Cranberry goes into Lucille's and is also greeted by the pungent smell, so he pulls up his gun and searches the house. The smell leads him to the basement, where he finds Lucille sawing up Rachel's corpse and feasting on Rachel's organs. He stops her at gunpoint, but Gary knocks him out. So Miss Lucille continues sawing for some BBQ later. The way they have Gary sawing Rachel looks fake AF. Preston wakes up next to Cranberry and is horrified to see Gary feasting on Rachel's organs. As Gary turns around, the two pretend to sleep. Preston then informs Cranberry that Aaron is gone. Spotting a blade nearby, Preston and Cranberry use it to free themselves. Cranberry shoots Gary twice on the chest, but Gary knocks the gun out of his hands. Luckily, Gary dies. Lucille arrives and lets out a sharp scream. Carla, who's knocking at Lucille's front door, hears her scream. Cranberry lets Preston run, but Preston soon learns that the front door is locked and the windows have grills. When he sees Carla, he calls her to help him, but Lucille, who has slashed Cranberry's neck, appears behind him and drags him back to the basement. Carla manages to enter the basement through the basement door and attempts to knock out Lucille, who is choking Preston. However, Lucille shows up. Carla is then horrified to see Rachel's corpse. Carla fights Lucille and stabs her using a pair of scissors she finds in one of the crates in the basement. While Lucille is choking Carla, she turns all demonic. Preston finds Cranberry's gun and fatally shoots Lucille from behind. 6 months later, Carla and Preston pack up and leave their Chicago home.
Thank you so much for helping me.
Anything for you.
As they drive by Lucille's house, they learn that the house already has a new occupant. The new occupant's kid is selling lemonade in front of the house, waving at them. Preston then notices that the kid's eyes are white, making him freeze in fear. What in the hell kind of Tubi movie was that? I forgot which one of y'all told me to watch that, but you going to hell for that one. What did you guys think of this one?
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. And if you'd like to watch more foolishness, click here or here.